Welcome back to my channel. Today we explore the value of specific coins, the top 6 most valuable U.S. Jefferson nickel coins value in today's market. So let's get started. First up, the 2005 Jefferson nickel with a P mint mark. Focusing on its value, even in dirty or circulated condition, the 2005 Jefferson nickel with the P mint mark is one of the more interesting modern coins, thanks to both its unique design and the demand among collectors. But how much is this coin really worth today, especially if it's in dirty, circulated condition in 2005? The U.S. Mint released 2 different reverse designs for the Jefferson nickel as part of the Westward Journey nickel series. These included the American Bison and the Ocean in View reverse types. Both were struck at the Philadelphia Mint and carry the P mint mark on the front, just to the right of Jefferson's portrait. These coins were made in large quantities. Over 448 million of the Bison design and over 450 million of the Ocean in View design were produced at the Philadelphia Mint alone. Because of that high mintage, most of these coins in circulated or dirty condition are still worth just face value 5 cents. However, there are a few key exceptions that collectors watch for. First, coins with major minting errors can bring a much higher value. This includes things like double strikes, off-center strikes, or die breaks. If you find a 2005 P nickel with any of these errors, even if it's dirty, it could be worth anywhere from $10 to over $100 depending on the type and severity of the error. Another valuable variety is the so-called speared bison error, found on the American Bison design. This error shows a die gouge that looks like a spear running through the bison's back. Even in circulated condition, this variety can sell for $50 to $300, or even more in high-grade examples. Now, if you're looking at a standard 2005 P Jefferson nickel with no errors and it's just dirty or worn from circulation, the market value today is still 5 cents. These coins are not rare in that condition and are not in high demand from collectors. That said, if the coin has any unique qualities, such as toning, or if you suspect it may have a mint error, it could be worth a closer look. You might want to compare it to high-resolution images of known error coins, or even get a second opinion from a coin dealer or grading service. In short, the vast majority of 2005 P Jefferson nickels in dirty or circulated condition are only worth their face value, but there are a few valuable exceptions out there. If you happen to find one of those rare varieties, you could be holding a coin worth significantly more than just 5 cents. Next up, the 1996D Jefferson nickel in dirty condition, designed to last around 3 minutes when spoken at a typical pace. In today's video, we're taking a closer look at the 1996 Jefferson nickel with the Denver Mint mark worth and whether it holds any real value even if it's in worn or dirty condition. Now, most 1996D Jefferson nickels were struck for everyday use. In fact, the Denver Mint produced over 800 million of them. Because of that high mintage, they're generally considered common. You'll often find them in pocket change, and most are not rare or collectible. That said, there are still a few things that could make a 1996D nickel worth more than face value. The condition plays a huge role. A coin that's clean, uncirculated, or has a proof-like appearance can sometimes fetch $1 or $2 from collectors. But since we're focusing specifically on a circulated or dirty coin, things change. If your 1996D nickel is just dirty or worn from circulation and doesn't show any signs of errors or damage from the minting process, it's likely worth only its face value 5 cents. In this condition, it simply doesn't stand out to collectors. There are millions just like it. However, there are always exceptions. Sometimes, error coins slip through the cracks. Things like off-center strikes, double dies, or misaligned mint marks can make a big difference. Even in dirty condition, an error coin might still be worth several dollars or more. Sometimes even $20 or higher depending on the type of error and how noticeable it is. To determine whether a coin has one of these errors, you'd need to look closely. That means checking both sides of the coin carefully under a magnifying glass or microscope. Look for anything unusual about the lettering, date, or the way Jefferson's portrait appears. So, to summarize, a regular 1996D Jefferson nickel in dirty, circulated condition is generally worth just 5 cents today. But if that coin happens to have a rare mint error, its value could be much higher. If you think you've got something unusual, it's worth having a professional coin dealer take a look. Next up, the 2016D Jefferson nickel in extra fine condition. If you have a Jefferson nickel from 2016 with a D mint mark, you might be wondering if it's worth more than its face value. The D mint mark means it was struck at the Denver Mint, and, like all modern nickels, it's made of a copper-nickel composition. While this coin is very common in circulation, certain factors can influence its value on the collector's market. In general, the 2016D Jefferson nickel was produced in large numbers. Over 700 million coins were minted in Denver that year. Because of that high mintage, most examples found in everyday change are only worth their face value, 5 cents. However, if your coin is in extra fine condition or better, it may carry a small premium among collectors. Extra fine condition, often abbreviated as XF, means the coin has only light wear on the high points, with most of the design details still visible and sharp. It's not uncirculated, but it's clearly better than an average circulated coin. Collectors looking for higher grade examples of modern nickels may pay a small amount over face value for coins in this grade. As of today's market, a 2016D Jefferson nickel in extra fine condition typically sells for about 10 to 15 cents. This modest premium reflects the coin's condition and the collector demand for well-preserved examples. It's important to note that the value can vary depending on the buyer, the coin dealer, and overall market conditions. Some collectors may pay a bit more if they are trying to complete a date and mint mark set in higher grades. For most people, this coin won't bring a large return. But if you enjoy collecting, it's a nice addition to a modern Jefferson nickel collection. If your coin happens to be in uncirculated or mint state condition, especially graded by a professional service, the value could increase to anywhere from 50 cents to a few dollars, depending on the grade and appeal. So, while the 2016D Jefferson nickel in extra fine condition is not especially rare or valuable, it's still worth more than face value to the right collector. It's always a good idea to examine your change. You never know what you might find. Next up, the 2014D Jefferson nickel, specifically in extra fine condition, and exploring what it's really worth in the current market. The Jefferson nickel has been a staple of U.S. coinage since 1938. In 2006, the reverse design was updated to feature a forward-facing portrait of Thomas Jefferson and Monticello on the reverse. The 2014D nickel was struck at the Denver Mint and is part of this modern design series. In terms of mintage, the 2014D Jefferson nickel is far from rare. Over 462 million of these coins were produced. That means in circulated or lightly circulated condition, most 2014D nickels are only worth their face value 5 cents. However, coins in extra fine condition or better can carry a modest premium, especially if they show strong detail and minimal wear. In numismatic grading, extra fine condition refers to coins that have light wear on the highest points but still retain sharp details. For a modern coin like this, that's not too uncommon, but it is a step above what you'd usually find in everyday change. As of today's market, a 2014D Jefferson nickel in extra fine condition typically sells for between 10 and 25 cents. It's a small increase over face value, but it's still not considered rare or significantly valuable. If you're lucky enough to have an uncirculated version or one with a mint error like an off-center strike, a clipped planchette, or the value could be much higher, potentially a few dollars or more, depending on the error type and demand. If you're looking to sell a 2014D nickel, coin dealers and collectors will usually only be interested in coins that are either uncirculated, part of a full date, coins in extra fine condition, unless they have something unusual about them, aren't high-demand items. Still, for beginner collectors, coins like the 2014D Jefferson nickel are a great way to learn about grading, mint marks, and U.S. coin history. And who knows, as time passes, modern nickels and higher grades may grow in value, especially if preserved properly. In summary, a 2014D Jefferson nickel in extra fine condition is worth a little over face value, usually no more than a quarter. In today's market, while it's not a rare treasure, it's still an interesting piece of American currency to keep an eye on. Next up, the 2005D Jefferson nickel. Even in dirty or circulated condition, the 2005 Jefferson nickel with the Denver Mint mark is part of the Westward Journey nickel series, which was issued to commemorate the bicentennial of the Lewis and Clark expedition. This series includes several design variations, and the 2005 nickels were especially notable due to the temporary change in both the reverse and the obverse designs. The specific 2005D nickel in question can come in a few different reverse designs, notably the American Bison and the Ocean in View types. Both types were minted in Denver as well as Philadelphia, but today we're focusing on the one with the D mint mark, meaning it was produced in Denver. Now, if you have a 2005D nickel and it's in dirty or well-circulated condition, you're probably wondering if it holds any special value. For most circulated examples, the value is generally close to face value 5 cents. However, there are certain conditions and factors that could make your coin worth more than that. Even in a worn state, some collectors look for specific errors or varieties. For example, with the 2005D Bison nickel, one of the most famous errors is the speared bison variety. This refers to a die gouge that appears to pierce through the bison's body, resembling a spear. If your dirty 2005D nickel happens to be a speared bison, even in circulated condition, it can fetch anywhere from $10 to $50 or more, depending on its clarity and market demand. On the other hand, standard 2005D nickels without errors in circulated and dirty condition are very common. Tens of millions were produced, so they are easy to find in pocket change. In today's market, unless it's an error coin, most dealers or collectors would only pay 5 to 10 cents for it if they're interested at all. In most cases, it wouldn't be worth more than face value. Still, that doesn't mean you should immediately spend it. Sometimes coins that look dirty can clean up slightly with professional conservation. Although cleaning coins at home is not recommended as it can reduce their value. Also, keep an eye out for full steps on the Monticello building. If you happen to find a 2005D nickel from the regular Monticello reverse design, those details can also influence the value, although that design was not used in the 2005 issues. To summarize, a standard 2005D Jefferson nickel in dirty or circulated condition is usually worth face value. However, if it has a rare error like the speared bison, its value could rise significantly, even without being in mint condition. So it's always a good idea to look closely, especially at coins from this unique year in U.S. Mint historical. Next up, the 2021D Jefferson nickel in dirty or circulated condition. If you've recently found a 2021 Jefferson nickel with a demint mark in your pocket change, you might be wondering if it's worth more than just 5 cents. Let's take a closer look at this modern coin and see whether it holds any collectible value in today's market, especially in circulated or dirty condition. The Jefferson nickel has been in continuous production since 1938, and the 2021 version continues the updated design introduced in 2006. On the obverse, you'll see a forward-facing portrait of Thomas Jefferson. On the reverse, the familiar image of Monticello, Jefferson's historic home, remains. The D Mint mark signifies that the coin was struck at the Denver Mint. In 2021, the Denver Mint produced over 865 million Jefferson nickels. With such a high mintage, most of these coins are still considered common in the world of numismatics. Now, what does that mean for the value? In circulated or dirty condition, which is what most people find in change, 2021D Jefferson nickel is generally worth face value, 5 cents. This is especially true if the coin shows signs of wear, discoloration, or grime. These coins are produced for everyday use, and unless there's something unusual about yours, such as a rare mint error or dye variety, its market value remains minimal. However, if you do find a 2021D nickel in exceptionally poor condition, it's still worth taking a closer look before spending it. Some errors, like off-center strikes, die cracks, or doubled dies, can appear even on otherwise ordinary coins. If you believe your coin might have an error, it's a good idea to consult a coin expert or have it evaluated by a grading service. Even so, most verified errors from this year typically range in value from just a few dollars to around $20, depending on the severity and demand among collectors. As of today, a circulated 2021D Jefferson nickel without any mint errors or special features typically sells for no more than its face value. Dealers and collectors are generally not paying premiums for coins in dirty or worn condition from this mintage. If you're hoping to collect or invest in Jefferson nickels, focus on coins in uncirculated condition or those with rare errors. But for the everyday 2021D nickel found in change, it's still a nice piece of modern US coinage, just not a valuable one. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content. See you in next time. Happy collecting.